And there was a good article out there on ESPN.com giving us the top 2020 games for each top 25 college football teams. So they sort of went through and looked at it, and we were looking at some of the big games over the course of this season, of course, pending whatever we get from college football. But Mike, when you take a look at this game, look at some of the lists that's out there on .com, is there, like, if you had to pick just a couple of games that really stand out to you that you think are landmark games this fall, what stands out?
Yeah, and so just to give you an idea, like they went through and they picked games like Clemson playing Louisville in September, an ACC matchup in a conference where, quite frankly, people expect Clemson to run roughshod over it. But Scott Satterfield's building a hell of a program at Louisville, all these different things going into that. Ohio State at Oregon that same weekend, an out-of-conference matchup, an important one certainly for an Oregon team that's going to be going without Justin Herbert at the helm here, but get some changes at offensive coordinator. So this is the kind of thing we're dealing with. But I think storyline-wise, there's 5 very clearly most important games in all of this. So I'll go in reverse order, Jason. I'll give you number 5. Number 5 for me is Oklahoma, Texas in this. You've got a situation.
Is Texas back to bait?
Yeah, it really is. And listen, Tom Herman has gone on this offseason. Tom Herman may now be woke, but I don't know if he is back yet. Tom Herman has responded as well as any coach and as genuinely as any coach in college football to everything that's gone on in this country. And so now it's going to find out, can his team take the next step in all of this? Can a team that returns a ton of talent on offense, certainly brings their quarterback back, the most important part of all this, go up against the Oklahoma team that's been the standard in the Big 12 for years now, that's finally turning over, not going to hand the reins to a transfer quarterback, and see if they can take that rivalry game?
Yeah, and I agree with you on the Herman aspect, too. When you look at Tom Herman particularly, he's somebody that we were there for game day last year because we were joking about the is Texas back conversation, then the wheels sort of fell off. So Herman is somebody that seems to have a lot of love, but he's got to get better. What's next for you?
I went Notre Dame Clemson next. Obviously, this one is a bit self-serving, but I look at this and say, with all respect to Louisville in the game we talked about, I don't think Clemson's going to get much of a challenge in the ACC. I think North Carolina is another team to potentially watch out in there, but they avoid them in that cross-conference matchup this year. So I think Notre Dame Clemson, for Clemson, it's a big win late in the season potentially for them. For Notre Dame, they get this game at home, the big game issues that they've traditionally had in the past on the line yet again in this one, with a third-year starter at quarterback, something that's very unique in the Brian Kelly era there. So big one to pick up there. But number 3 is my favorite one in this one. I couldn't put it at number 1, but this one to me is one of the biggest one. USC versus Oregon. I think this year we've talked about Oregon, like we just mentioned, potentially that out-of-conference game with Ohio State. But in that conference right now, the Pac-12 has been on life support for a little while as a conference in college football. Oregon has been the standard there for quite a while, and especially last year, they were the hope for the college football playoff that was dashed somewhat early in this. But that team moved on, like we said, from their quarterback, lost a ton of guys, I think 4 starters from one of the best offensive lines in college football. And now USC has turned everything around. They've turned over their coaching staff in a big way. They brought the video coordinator in from LSU. The recruiting has been better this year after an abysmal 2020. And Keaton Slovis is going to be a dark horse Heisman candidate if things can track well for this team. I think for USC to find its way back to prominence with Clay Helton and all the questions he's faced, that goes a long way for the health of the conference overall in this one. USC is the brand of note in the Pac-12 traditionally, and their health is the health of the conference in my mind.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. It is concerning to me that USC just said the college classes this fall will be done online. So I'm curious what that means for their football team moving forward. But you're absolutely right. They're the beacon of light for the Pac-12 if we get a Pac-12. Real quick, what you got next? That was your number 3 game, right?
That was my number 3 game. It's the one I'm personally most excited to see because, listen, USC is a team that I grew up loving in the early 2000s. Those teams defined it for me. So very important. Number 2 for me is Florida versus Georgia.
You've lost your mind. That's number 1. That's number 1, but go ahead.
Now, number 1 is clear to me for reasons that you'll see. Florida, Georgia for me, just because Georgia's getting to the territory that Michigan finds itself in now, where, yes, Kirby Smart has been lauded for the great recruiting, for getting them to a national championship a couple years ago that we were both at. But now it's gotten to the point where, all right, you stuck with Jake Fromm and you let Justin Fields walk to Ohio State. You guys have pushed out 5 stars for Jake Fromm in a way that didn't ultimately will out. Your offense hasn't evolved in the ways that other others, even in the SEC, have evolved in the last few years. You bring in Todd Monken now as your offensive coordinator. You've got a new quarterback in that spot. You finally moved on from Jake Fromm. If that offense specifically doesn't take steps forward and in this one get an important win on their side of the SEC, I think you're going to start to get that chatter that Jim Harbaugh's been dealing with at Michigan for a couple years now.
And that's why you mentioned the chatter. That's why I think it's the most important game, because whoever wins that game is likely, in my mind, going to represent the East. No offense, Kentucky. And that puts them in the SEC championship game against likely whoever, Alabama, LSU, however that goes. But whoever they're playing in the SEC championship game, you got to look at the game you just mentioned, Georgia, Florida. Winner has a real shot at the playoff and a national championship. Loser is going to start to get a lot of questions about whether or not they can, air quotes, win the big one. So that's why I think it's most important. What you got at 1?
Number 1, I got LSU and Bama. I think this one, as then the health of the conference, we talked about that for the Pac-12. I look at this, all right, both teams are going to be breaking in new quarterbacks after watching first-rounders and transcendent talents depart. And for Alabama, we're used to them reinventing themselves. How do they do it again now in an era where they've started to actually define their team's production by the quarterback position? And for LSU, listen, what's the return act for the defending champions look like? They lost a ton of NFL talent. We know that place is used to bringing it in, but they just had maybe the best college football season we've ever seen. That's a tough act to follow, and we know this is the game that defines what success looks like there.
Fair point, and it'll be the game that defines what we think of Coach O. Although right now we're so in love with him, it will be interesting to see with so much turnover how they look. By the way, Kirby Smart plays Nick Saban this year. We'll get Georgia, Alabama for the first time. Saban 19-0 versus assistants, which is key. But that didn't make our list because, let's be real, they're going to get the opportunity likely if both of them have the rest of their season go the way they hope, they'll have the opportunity to play in the SEC championship.
It's also worth noting playing for the first time in the regular season because they met in the national title game.
Right, that good call on that. First time in the regular season. So we're just getting excited. Anytime Mike and I can talk college football, we do it just because it gives us some beacon of hope.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.